All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, as the sky, especially enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood. For the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood. For the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood. For the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow, may they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Now to the 4th session Guru Yoga text. If you have the PDF of just the 4-session Guru Yoga, that is on page 12. If you have the Pecha text, some of you also have the PDF of the Pecha, but the Pecha text or the PDF is 112, page 112. I respectfully pay homage with fierce and longing faith of the three types to you, the glorious Guru, Lord of the four Kayas. With my body, speech, and mind, I make offerings of all these established things, outer, inner, and other, the one who offers that which is offered, and the act of offering are indivisible in essence. This being so, I make this offering of the great single taste, freedom from elaborations. Grant me the accomplishment of effortlessness. I lay bare the impairments and breakings of the vows of the three vehicles and rejoice in your liberating deeds. Please turn the wheel of Dharma in accordance with the capacities of those to be trained and remain here for as long as samsara has not been emptied. I dedicate the merit accumulated in the three times to the welfare of wandering beings. I supplicate you, the Dharmakaya, great Vajradhara of the sixth family. I supplicate you, the 85 Indian Mahasiddhas. I supplicate you, Tili Prajna Bhadra. I supplicate you, Narunyana Siddhi. I supplicate you, Marpa of Lodha, the translator. I supplicate you, Mila Sheba Durje. I supplicate you, Tao Shunu of Dakpo. I supplicate you, the three Siddhas of Kam. I supplicate you, Dorje Gyalpo of Pagdu. I supplicate you, Jason Dorje Pelda. I supplicate you, Supreme Refuge, Jikten Sumgon. I supplicate you, Dharma Lora Nashri. I supplicate you, Kenchen Sutrim Dorje. I supplicate you, Onchen Sonam Drapa. I supplicate you, Chenga Drapa Jungne. I supplicate you, Chung O Dorje Drapa. I supplicate you, Toka Rinchen Senge. I supplicate you, Samche Drapa Sonam. I supplicate you, Chuni Dorje Rinchen. I supplicate you, Tuku Dorje Gyalpo. I supplicate you, Nyani Chuki Gyalpo. I supplicate you, Shenyin Tondrum Gyalpo. I supplicate you, Rinchen Pelgi Gyaltsen. I supplicate you, Chugyal Rinchen Pelzang. I supplicate you, Rixin Chuki Gyatso. I supplicate you, Gyalwang Kunga Rinchen. I supplicate you, Jason Rinchen Punso. I supplicate you, Rinchen Nampa Gyalwa. I supplicate you, Benchen Belgi Gyalten. I supplicate you, Chokle Nampa Gyalwa. I supplicate you, Tsongme Chogyal Punso. I supplicate you, Drupchen Tashi Punso. I supplicate you, Jason Kunjo Rinchen. I supplicate you, Rixin Chuki Dakpa. I supplicate you, Kunjo Tinle Namjam. I supplicate you, Kunjo Tinle Zangpo. I supplicate you, Tinle Dondrup Chogya. I supplicate you, Kunju Tenzin Jodu. I supplicate you, Tenzin Chuki Nimang. I supplicate you, Kyamda Peme Gyamtsen. I supplicate you, Jamyan Chuki Gyaltsen. I supplicate you, Chuban Chuki Gyalzen, I supplicate you, Rinchen Tempe Zegin, I supplicate you, Gyawang Tuje Nimam. I supplicate you, Rixin Nuden Turje, I supplicate you, Jesun Chuki Lodo. I supplicate you, Gyaljo Shive Lodo, I supplicate you, Jesun Dharma Karam. I supplicate you, Trisa Tenzin Tubden. I supplicate you, the Dabu God, you protectors of wandering beings. I supplicate you, my kind root Guru. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I meditate on the rarity of freedoms and endowments. I still squander away my life. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion. Reckless and mundane, although I meditate on impermanence and death, I still fixate on composite phenomena as permanent. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I meditate on the unmistaken nature of cause and effect, I still pervert what to adopt and what to abandon. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I meditate on the sufferings of cyclic existence. I still take the way to the lower realms. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion. Reckless and mundane, although I safeguard the vows of individual liberation, I still lack renunciation and the determination to be free. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I meditate on all wandering beings as my parents. I still have bias attachment to friends and aversion for enemies. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I cultivate loving kindness and compassion, I still hold on to envy and enmity. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I cultivate aspiration and action bodhicitta, I still focus only on my own welfare. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I meditate on my body as the deity's exalted form. I still cling to ordinary perception. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion. Reckless and mundane, although I have counted the mantras to be recited, I still waste away my life force. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I cultivate the samadhi of moon in the water, I still solidify things as real and substantial. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion, reckless and mundane, although I conclude by dissolving in the subsequent stage. I still purify and confess superficially. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion. Reckless and mundane, although I meditate on my own mind as free from elaborations, I still have conceptual attitudes. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion. Reckless and mundane, although I cultivate not grasping at whatever arises, I still affix an artificial watchfulness. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion. Reckless and mundane, although I cultivate resting freely in the natural state, I still amplify artificialities. Look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion. Reckless and mundane, although I meditate on unity beyond conceptions, I still get carried away By the masses of likes and dislikes, look upon me from afar with eyes of compassion. Reckless and mundane, I supplicate you, who are my refuge and protector in this and all other lives. Physician who removes the chronic diseases of samsara, hero who vanquishes the enemies that are afflictive emotions, sun which dispels the darkness of ignorance, moon that protects from the heat of suffering, jewel which fulfills all our needs and desires. You Guru who are all inclusive and all sufficient, I supplicate you from the depths of my heart. With compassion, swiftly heed me, effortlessly bestow your blessings, grant me now and on this seat the naturally accomplished feast of the two benefits. I am endowed with both merit and devotion. Do not leave my hopes unfulfilled. Don't cast away my devotion in vain. Don't let my supplications vanish unanswered. Don't be indifferent with your compassion, refuge and protector in this life, in the intermediate state and beyond, whatever occurs, joy or sorrow, good or bad. Only you are my hope. Look upon me with eyes of compassion. You alone are my hope. And then the dedication. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara, and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers. And may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstruct us, or harm, those who create obstacles, Maras who mislead, and their Mara retinues have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi by the power of this vast root of virtue. May we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta. May I become a virtuous spiritual friend with good qualities limitless as space. May I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Now, page 37, we now begin the second teaching. So maybe the translators, I think, provided the section headings for us. And this one they identified as practice what is wholesome and abandon what is unwholesome. And so yesterday I talked about, this word wholesome, unwholesome, they, they are synonymous, with skillful, unskillful, good, bad, kusala and akusala, in Pali and Sanskrit. Kusala dharma and akusala dharma. So that which is, so definition is that which results in what is pleasant, what is good, and that which results in that which is unpleasant and therefore not good. So this is the definition. The precious Lama Jikten Sumgon, who is not separate from the body, speech, and mind of all Buddhas of the three times, and whose nature is wisdom, taught the following. And so this probably added by the compiler, Drikung. Why did the perfectly complete Buddha appear in this world? He appeared in this world, to teach what is wholesome in the beginning, wholesome in the middle, and wholesome in the end. In other words, he taught the Dharma of the antidote. An antidote to the poisons, to the afflictive emotions, to the mental defilements. Likewise, he appeared in the world to teach what is unwholesome in the beginning, middle, and end. And this is the Dharma that must be abandoned. So dharmas means just the word Dharma itself, right? It doesn't mean that it's Buddha Dharma. So the dharmas that are to be applied as antidote, and the dharmas, the conditions, the phenomena, that is to be abandoned. And that which is to be abandoned are those dharmas that are unskillful. So, of course, when you translate into English, then you have a little problem there. Some words you put in caps, some words you put without cap, capitalization. So dharma here maybe might cause some confusion. And then you want to be consistent, so then you capitalize dharma, and then you end up capitalizing the dharma that must be abandoned. It is not that the Buddha taught any teaching that you should abandon. Yes. So here dharma simply means, those conditioned states, those phenomena that must be abandoned. Wholesome at all times, skillful at all times. The Dharma is skillful in the beginning, because in this life it is the source of all excellent auspiciousness, well-being, and fortune. So here, Jikten Sumgon is saying, even the ordinary happiness that we're looking for in this world, the ordinary well-being, they are to be found in the 10 virtues, and they are harmed or destroyed by the 10 non-virtues. And so that the 10 virtues and 10 non-virtues don't just pertain to Buddhahood. At the level of just mere ordinary happiness. Now, of course, right now we're confused. We think, to get this ordinary happiness that I want, I may have to do things that are not the 10 virtues. In fact, I may have to do some of the 10 non-virtues. So what Kyoba is saying here is, actually, those things won't lead to even the ordinary happiness that you're looking for. It may seemingly lead to it, because it may seem like, that's the quickest way to lie, steal, cheat, right? He's saying, no, actually, it will only cause more kind of anxieties, guilty conscience, and so on and so forth. You're always on guard, If you cheat, you're always on guard. Who's going to cheat me? Yeah. If you lie, you're always on guard, to keep all your lies, in a row. So how can you be happy? You cannot, And we all have seen, right, the effects of these kinds of actions in our lives, It's just not at ease, when we know that, all I've been creating is these things that Buddha called non-virtues, unskillful. And then we can see the quality of your mind, the quality of your life, when you're dominated by those types of actions. And so here it says, this Dharma that is wholesome in the beginning, you can understand that as saying, it is the source of all excellent auspiciousness, well-being, and fortune in this life. It is wholesome in the middle because one attains the excellent fortune of human and divine rebirths. So continue existence, continue embodiment in the form of the human form and the divine form becomes possible because of cultivating the 10 virtues and avoiding the 10 non-virtues. Human and divine rebirths at the end of this life. What is the next moment that continues? Right? You want this continuum to re-embody in human or divine, relative to the lower realms. But then even in this life, right, to be embodied as a divine or human being is also a momentary occurrence from moment to moment. So sometimes even still, while carrying, while embodied in this human body, momentarily, we can experience existence in the hell realm, existence in the hungry ghost realm, existence in the demigod realm, existence in an animal realm, and likewise existence in the God realm. Even though mostly, we say, now, you and me are mostly in the human realm. But just within a day, and then by extension, a lifetime as a human being, there are also moments. There has been moments and there will be moments where we temporarily fall into or rise up to these realms. And for that, the principle, that which drives the embodiment, and that which determines the next moment, how will it be embodied, is determined by karmic causality. It is wholesome or skillful in the end because one will attain perfectly complete Buddhahood in the state of unsurpassable complete awakening. And that it is also lies at the basis of this process of waking up. Now, sometimes, in some texts and some teachers, especially those, especially if you're reading like Perfection of Wisdom sutras, like the Heart Sutra, and teachers who want to emphasize how different, right, Buddha wisdom is compared to ordinary human thought, human intellect, especially when they want to emphasize, right, how radically different wisdom is. Sometimes we get this kind of flavor or vibe that seems to be saying that because this wisdom is so radically different from ordinary thought, ordinary understanding, Therefore, the causes of the arising of this wisdom also is radically different. They want to emphasize like the transcendent, the totally transcendent aspect of wisdom. So then they might even emphasize that, oh, Dharma is going to cause chaos in your life. Oh, Dharma, when it's working, is going to cause upheavals in your life. It's true in a sense, right? In another context, yes, you need to understand that, you should not relate to Dharma practice, like it's a therapy, like going to the spa, Yes, true, you should not relate to Dharma practice in that way. But it is also an exaggeration to think, unless my life is always in chaos, I'm not practicing Dharma right. And maybe, a further misunderstanding of this type would be, you think you're practicing Dharma when in fact you're giving in to all your afflictive emotions, and therefore your life is more and more chaotic. But then you're under the delusion that, oh, I'm practicing Dharma. Must be going well because it's really chaotic. Nobody likes me. I don't like anyone. Oh, I must be, enlightened now or close to being a Mahasiddha, right? I'm a pain in the hiney for other people. Oh, this is Mahasiddha activity. This has gone too far, in the other direction. If we look at the profile of the Buddha in the historical sources from the earliest period, you see a human being, as in like you and me, in that sense, human being, but of course, Buddhas have transcended, cleared the afflictive emotions. When you look at this profile of this Buddha, what is a Buddha? The reference point that we can all agree on, no matter what form of Buddhism we practice. So we go back to these earliest descriptions of the Buddha. You see someone who was careful. He didn't say, I'm Buddha. I'm completely different from you guys, and then behave strange. He was out of compassion, really, out of being kind to others. He was living harmoniously in accordance with. But that doesn't mean, of course, that he indulged others in their confusion. No, they are also very clear from these early sources that when he has to say certain things to correct some wrong ideas, wrong thoughts, wrong practice, he wasn't beyond using very strong words. He wasn't beyond using very strong words. But even that, you don't have any instance of saying, recorded the Buddha throwing a tantrum, like got wrathful, got angry, you don't see that. So we should follow this example. Buddha Shakyamuni is our most immediate reference point as followers of Buddha Dharma. So this avoiding or giving up of the non-virtues and practicing the virtues in the immediate short term they are the causes of happiness in the immediate short term. They are also the causes of happiness from lifetime to lifetime. And they are also the causes of happiness that goes beyond lifetimes. This is what this paragraph is saying. As it also says in this text called Reciting the Names of Manjushri Namasangiti. What is wholesome in beginning, middle, and end was taught by the previous Buddhas, will be taught by the future Buddhas, and is taught again and again by present Buddhas. Unquote. It was taught that what is wholesome in the beginning is also wholesome in the middle and in the end. Now, just as the left side can be understood from the right side, we can also see that what is unwholesome in the beginning is also unwholesome in the middle and in the end. What is meant by unwholesome? So here, a definition. Intentions, so on the level of thoughts, intentions, actions, so these thoughts have now been turned into verbal or physical actions. So intentions, actions, and ripened results related to the three afflictions are unwholesome. And so quoting from Nagarjuna's Jewel Garland, what are these afflictions? Desire, aversion, delusion, and the deeds they generate are what is unwholesome. So anything that is fueled by, stained by, influenced by these three poisons, desire, aversion, and delusion, then those intentions, those actions, and finally those results are unwholesome, not skillful, cannot be happiness, and cannot produce happiness. Now, among the afflictions, what is desire? What is this attachment? And so here, a footnote from the translators. The Tibetan word translated here as desire is docha. It combines the two aspects of desire and attachment, dopa and chakpa. So to desire, first to desire, and then once you get, to attach, docha. As the explanation is in the text shift between the two aspects of this affliction, attachment is also used at times. So sometimes chakpa is used, sometimes dopa is used. But docha, attachment, has these two, it's a compound word that contains these two meanings. To want, and then to want to keep wanting, to keep holding on. So among the afflictions, what is desire? There are two kinds of desire: attachment to outer objects and attachment to inner beings. In other words, attached to animate things and attachment to inanimate things. Outer, inner here is talking about, basically, it's a literal translation for animate and inanimate. Outer is inanimate. Inner is animate. So it's talking about in some other contexts, it's translated as the container world, meaning the physical container world, and the beings that are contained. So that's the outer and the inner, the container and the contents. As for desire for outer objects, then it is the desire, wanting, fields, an estate, houses, mansions, and so forth. Then the deeds that follow from this mental state of attachment are to protect your own party and harm the other party. So in order, right? So first there's the desire part, then there's the attachment part. So to protect me and mine, to guard against, right, them and theirs. The latter consists of the various ways difficulties for them can be created, such as hurting them and so forth. So seeking to harm others in order to protect what's mine. And what's mine and what I want to keep to continue as mine. The ripened results of these deeds is to fall into the three lower states. So because of this, it can cause us to be re-embodied, to fall into the lower states, to be embodied as an animal, as a hell being, as an animal, as a hungry spirit, preta, and a hell being. Therefore, you capable people, so footnote here, the word person, kebu, is probably to be understood in the meaning of powerful, capable people. So here, you capable people, he's talking to his disciples, you're not ordinary already, you at the very least you're able to see, this is samsara, this is the problem, I want out. And he says, you people, do not act like that. Do not let attachment overpower you. When we die, we have to leave behind all the excellent things of this life, such as fields and estates. No matter how much, right, we have accumulated, no matter how much we have, you have to leave behind the fields and the estates. And then, of course, we also, some of us say, yeah, I know that. I know that I have to leave behind. But you know what? I'm going to leave behind for my sons and my daughters. Yeah, so you're like, of course I'm going to, be greedy. But it's not for my sake, it's for their sake. And it sounds, kind of generous and altruistic. In that sense, it's altruistic. It's not about you, but it's about giving to yours. If only you know what they're going to do with what you give to them, then maybe you won't be so excited about giving. So in Asian cultures, this is very strong, this giving to descendants, very strong. Sometimes they hear about Westerners, Americans who put in their will, giving to charity, giving to, they admire that, but they admire it from afar, they never say, oh, we also want to become. So it's the kind of admire that is like, oh, those are like aliens. How interesting, what kind of Martian behavior is that, And most Asians only think of like, I'm going to give only to my descendants, strongly. So that's why there's also a lot of emphasis in Asia, and part of those teachings regarding this says, like at the same time, culturally, you also have people repeating stories or pointing out instances where, like, for example, very wealthy family. So there's a saying, like among Chinese, we said, wealth doesn't last, doesn't continue beyond 3 generations. So the grandparents make the money, then the grandkids, at best it goes until there, then starting from there, the rot begins. So not only that wealth doesn't continue, go beyond 3 generations, but that this wealth can also destroy the next 2 generations, because it comes with so much burdens, expectations, and then burdens and expectations of the grandparents in terms of the kind of negative karma they have to create to amass all of this and to keep it within. And then plus their expectations and their attachments further burden. And so then there's again an emphasis, especially in Asian culture, to purify your wealth, so to say, and do as much kind of giving others as you can in order to not harm your descendants. So various cultures have kind of taken the Buddhist principles, the principles that the Buddha taught, and apply it within their cultural sphere. In a way, you could say, to serve as a critique of the critique of cultural patterns that will cause more suffering. So various Buddhist principles of the sort are applied. So then we have to think in our context, right? How to apply this principle. So then, you have to leave behind your fields and your estates. Only the accumulated karma out of desire and aversion related to those things will follow us. So Kyopa is pointing out, not only, right, you cannot take these fields and estates and wealth with you, but on top of that, whatever negative karma you created in the amassing of all of this, that on the other hand follows. That on the other hand continues. Because that needs to be re-embodied, needs to arise. Whatever is planted will sprout. When it sprouts, it's like daffodils. not daffodils, dandelion, this plant that we have. They have this little stem, and then very light, almost like fluffy, cottony, round things, If you don't understand what is going on, and you see wind blow, it just goes, or you pick it up and go, yeah. What you have done is just, guaranteed, for the next 4 springs, you'll be busy with one. More dandelions will turn up. Now, if you cook with dandelion greens, then that's good news, but most of us don't, then it's just weed. That will follow, that will follow you. So to say, follow you. Elsewhere, Kyuba Rinpoche says, don't be so sure about this you. But here, using it in a more general way, right? It says it will follow you. But if you want to be more exact about what exactly is going on, right? It's not that there's a you, not that there's a self that it follows, but you are the arising, you are the continuum of these actions, of these causes and results. So it will re-embody. So there are also stories in the sutras that talked about how people's excessive attachment to their things caused their re-embodiment as a snake. There's one story like that. As a snake that guards the pile of treasures and gold hidden in the ground by the dying person. That kind of attachment. If you practice the Dharma from the bottom of your heart, attachment to outer objects has to be abandoned. Has to be abandoned, need to be abandoned. This means that first you must leave home, just as the Buddha did. He left home when he was a bodhisattva abiding on the 10th stage. Kyopai is saying, even he's already on the 10th stage of bodhisattvahood. He didn't say, oh, I will just stay in the kingdom. I'm a 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva. I'm no longer affected by this. I can just stay here and attain Buddhahood. He left home when he was a Bodhisattva abiding on the 10th stage. At that time, he swore not to return to his palace in Kapilavastu until he had attained the state of an all-knowing Buddha. And so he undertook hardships. Even after he did attain Buddhahood, he did not return to his home until 6 years later. He didn't like, I'm Buddha now, okay, time to go back. Time to go back to my kingdom. I can handle all the attachments now, no problem, I'll move right back in with daddy, the king, Since even the Buddha had to do it, how much more necessary it is for others to leave their homes. So again, as I said before, we, of course, you have to see where you are and then know how much you push yourself and how much not to push and cause cause these obstacles if you push too much. But the principle needs to be taken to heart. Sometimes leaving home can be, that principle can be practiced, can be carried out by, like I said, I saw this kind of acquaintance on Facebook posting about, last week he checked into a motel, only brought some change of clothing and a toothbrush, checked into a motel, and he says, nothing here is mine, no more distractions. Whereas you stay in your house, there's this plant to, check on the water, there's that furniture to move a little bit, there's that, then the whole day is over. Then we think, oh yes, yeah, Dharma practice is going well. Not really, It's just things are comfortable. But slowly also, what you're ignoring is you have to part with all these comfortable conditions, Eventually it'll be yanked out of your hands. So if you don't train now, to be out of your home, so to say, this is what it's saying, And you're like, oh, I know I cannot become a monk or nun. Okay, fair enough. Okay, fine. You don't need to. But you need to get this principle. Some might think that home is where everything conducive comes together and that it isn't practical to leave it. Yeah, of course. Oh, yes. You know, I can practice Dharma because everything is under your control. It isn't practical to leave it. We're so good at being practical, But that idea isn't useful either. To no longer be attached to home and to leave it is the separating result. The ripening result is to reach a place happier than that. To reach a place happier than that is not necessarily saying if you go to the monastery, you're going to be happier. Or if you go to the jungle, you'll be happier. It's saying your heart arrives at a happier place. Meaning you have the certainty in your heart that whether you are in the comfort of your own home or you're somewhere else, the happiness in the heart is really there. How do you know? How do you train? Not by, this is good, this is comfortable. If this is good, this is comfortable, can continue, not the problem, no problem. But this cannot continue. You'll be taken to the nursing home, then taken to the hospital. Taken to the grave. Without leaving home, it is difficult to give up the desire and the aversions related to it. So when we are away, we say, oh, it was uncomfortable. But we don't look and see what is going on there. Now, what is it? Whether you experience delight when you leave home and go somewhere else for whatever reason, or you experience, upheaval when you leave, that tells you, that tells us what are the habits that have formed around conditions being under control. So there's this, you all know that, the name that we got for the hermitage is Kunzang Naktsel Ling. Kunzang Naktsel Ling, or Kunzang Naktsel. Kunzang Naktsel is the ever excellent forest. For Drikung people, the first reference that they think of is this very important teaching that Kyoba Rinpoche actually composed. He didn't compose a lot, but he did compose some. Most of his collected teachings are compiled from extemporaneous advice, instructions, teachings that he gave, like this one. But there is one called the Blazing Jewel, Wish-Fulfilling Jewel, Garden of Blazing Wish-Fulfilling Jewel, Chintamani. There he talks about Kunzang Naktsel. He praises the qualities of practicing in the forest, in the wilderness. And he says, practice in this Kunzang Naktsel, practice in this ever excellent forest. Also, we know that he saw Pamodrupa's community, Pamodrupa's hermitage. He perceived it as Kunzang Naktsel, and then he called it Kunzang Naktsel. Although Pamodrupa's monastery is usually known as Densatil. Densa means like headquarters. So Densatil is like headquarters of many Kagyu lineages, those that originate from Pamodrupa. So as a common name. Everybody calls it Dansatil. But Jikten Sumgon had another name for it, probably his own, his perception of it as the ever excellent. So finally, what is that reference to? The reference actually, the locus classicus, as we would say, the very origins of this Kunzang Naktsel is actually in a sutra called the Samadhiraja Sutra. The Samadhiraja Sutra is a very important sutra, especially for Kagyupas, because at some point it is identified as one of the key texts related to Dakpo Kagyu, Gampopa's Kagyu tradition of practicing Mahamudra. That the Samadhiraja Sutra becomes important. Fairly long sutra, many chapters, and I believe chapter 36. There are many different stories and teachings that come out of those stories. So this Samadhiraja Sutra, like many sutras, don't necessarily have just one narrative. There's one narrative, but then it branches off and comes back, and branches off, comes back. Chapter 36 is one of these branching off, where it tells of this one ideal community of Dharma practitioners living in this forest, guided by a great Bodhisattva. And that forest is called Kunzang Naktsel, the ever excellent forest. What is interesting about that chapter is many pages of that chapter describes all how the wilderness, the solitude, the qualities of that place, how conducive it was for practice, and that this great teacher was surrounded by 500 disciples, all living there harmoniously, doing such great progress in meditation, and even like the fruits and the plants are so productive, right? They don't have to work very hard to be able to eat and to be able to enjoy. Everything is described as so nice, But then somewhere in the middle of this sutra, the leader, the great Bodhisattva, one day calls all his disciples and he says, I have to go now. I have to leave. And I'm like, what? No. Everything is good here. Why are you leaving? We need you. He said, the king of this region, he is now ripe to be transformed. I need to go. And they're like, no, this king is a terrible person. Everybody knows he hates Dharma practitioners. This leader said, no, I have to go because the time is right. I say, no, he's going to kill you. He says, I know. But what you don't understand is there is a chance that he will flip, that he will turn to the Dharma. So pages of his disciples begging and crying and please don't leave and please don't go. And he goes. And true enough, this king, several kings in Buddhist sources talk about several of these kings that have a habit of torturing ascetics. And so this Bodhisattva goes to the emperor's palace, like in the outskirts, like palaces are surrounded by beautiful forests as well. And he sat there and meditate. Then some of the king's concubines sees him, gets impressed, asks him for teachings, he gives. The king gets very upset, jealous. The king comes, cut off his right ear, cut off his left ear, and so on and so forth, until finally, only after the king has murdered him, Then great remorse arose. Then it said that he was able, the Bodhisattva was able to miraculously come back to life and taught the king, and in that way. So part of that story, it's also talking about even in the forest, there may come a time that even when seemingly the Dharma conditions are so perfect, as someone who is really training, you even have to leave that. When that becomes home, where everything is familiar, comfortable, you don't really know. You can fool yourself into like, oh, yeah, I practice better. It just means I'm comfortable. So he quotes from his own writing. He says, therefore I have taught in the wish-fulfilling jewel garland treatise, and here it is, Chintamani, since one's own home burns like red-hot irons and is a harmful place like the forest of blades, it is an extreme misfortune to become a leader of worldly people who are like the henchmen of death. When stuck in the putrid mud of the mire of corpses that is worldly gain and reputation, one who loves himself should take to the solitude of the forest. Really, why cling to home? As the forefather master Pamodrupa taught, since the area that is necessary to die does not span more than the length of a thigh bone, why fixate on dying at home? Also, many people say, I want to die at home. Basically, what we're saying when we say, I want to die at home, is I want to die with my stuff, my people. I want the last very bit of attachment to take it as to the end as possible. I mean, all of this is, very understandable. Probably if you like suddenly, wake me up in the middle of the night, and I'm completely like, and you ask, where do you want to die? It's like, here, because so it's very understandable. But here, Kyopa says, really, if you're serious about your Dharma practice, then think again. Thus, it is pointless to want at all cost to die at home. So here again, it's not against you being comfortable. Right? It's more saying, right? Where is this comfort? What are you building your sense of comfort upon? If it is built upon physical conditions, then you have no guarantee yet. So it's encouraging us, telling us we need to gain the type of comfort that is not based on physical location. And you will see later that it is not even built on non-physical. You can say it's not even built on like mental, emotional, because that's also unstable. So this ultimate comfort, the true home, so to say, exists, can be found, can be realized. That is what we're talking about here. our true home, so to say. To know what this true home is entails various types of leaving home for various lengths. So now go look for a motel to check into for a week. So that's your little leaving home. You know? Turn off your phone a week, 3 days, 1 weekend. Leave home. Then watch what are all your habit patterns related to the familiar, related to the recognizable. And then what are your habit patterns then in relation to the unfamiliar? All that is practice, you know. Okay. Changchu sem chorim poje ma ge ba nam ge gyunje ge ba nyam pa